This is session number 30 of the Silver Track Extra.
Thanks for tuning in to the Silver Track Extra, your source for the best tips, tricks, and how-tos to dominate the security industry. Helping you improve your business, win more contracts, and crush your competition. Here are your hosts, Chris Anderson and Johnny Page.
What's up, Silver Track Nation? This is Johnny Page. I'm joined here with my co-host, Chris Anderson, on episode number 30 of the Silver Track Extra, where we're going to talk about using lunch and learns to generate new leads. And Chris, this is a tactic that you've been using for quite some time that you've seen be really successful. You've actually raked in a couple of big deals and helped customers kind of navigate their way through this process to see some pretty big deals come through the pipeline.
Yeah, this is my famous, I call it my famous lunch and learn, a great way to get in because it's a new way to generate leads for the company. And, the old traditional way of calling up and talking about the security company on the phone, it's just hard to set appointments, John.
So Chris, what is a lunch and learn for someone who hasn't had an experience with this tactic before?
Well, I called my lunch and learn a great way to get a free lunch, of course, but I made it, I focused it more around when I went in. For an example, I did some cold calls and I would actually walk in the door for the lunch and learn, and the lunch and learn was more around their business because a lot of the companies, and they were management companies or apartment communities, had their monthly meetings or their quarterly meetings where they brought a group of people together to talk about productivity or just safety and general liability. So what I learned to do is just focus that attention around their needs, and I used my model with the technology in my business, and I brought that together. And I said, well, I'd love to buy you lunch, and I put a menu together and went in the door, and they were open to it.
So I wanted to, and I missed this. That was a great synopsis on really what a lunch and learn is, but I want to let our listeners know this is actually going to be part one of a two-part series. So this is episode 30. Episode 36, we're going to talk about how to actually conduct the lunch and learn. Today, we're just going to go over what is a lunch and learn, what are the benefits of the lunch and learn, and how can you start preparing? Basically, how do you get one of these lunch and learns on the books for your most valued prospect or the prospect that's really high up on your list. So Chris, let's run through some of the benefits of a lunch and learn. How have you seen these be successful? Why are they so successful? Kind of give our listeners a little insight into what you've seen actually happen as a result of these lunch and learns.
Okay. Well, number one, it's easier way to get in the door like we talked about, right? So it gets, it's a great way to cut through the noise of all the other security companies trying to make those contacts. On top of that, everybody loves to eat lunch. It's a free lunch. And then, having lunch or a presentation over a meal, it's a great way to build that relationship with that client, right? So it beats the normal presentations that are out there today. Makes the questions and answer periods go quicker. It's more enjoyable for them.
Yeah, and we talk about, look, you can call up on the phone and you could say, "Hi, I'm Joe Blow from XYZ Security, and I do the same thing that everyone else does who's also called you about security services, but you should pick me," right? Or you can call and say, "Hey, I'm Joe Blow from XYZ Security. I'd love to have a moment of your time. I understand that you're very busy. You have to eat lunch. I'd love to have that lunch on me. I'm serious about what we offer, and I don't want to waste your time. So can I take you to lunch? Can I bring..." So however you go about doing this, you're basically saying, I'm serious about the conversation that I want to have with you. I'm willing to put some skin in the game. It's different than saying, hey, you're just a numbers game. I'm making my 100 phone calls of the day, right? So you're calling up. If you do call up, or Chris, we've talked about probably the better way of going about doing this is walking in the door, right?
Yeah. And now take in mind, I even went as further. Even before I even made that call, I'd even talked to some of my clients. I would ask them, hey, do you guys have executive sessions once a month? Do you ever meet at your corporate office? Who comes to those meetings? What are the topics that you guys talk about, and how long do you hold those? And do you bring other service vendors in? They go, oh, yeah, sure. We bring vendors in all the time. We're always looking for, new ways. In fact, they would say, have you ever been to a lunch and learned with us? And I go, well, actually, when I think about it, yeah, I've actually been to a meeting. I've been invited. She goes, yeah, when we invite you those are actually our corporate meetings that we've had. And we'll invite vendors in to give a 15-minute presentation to kill time and maybe learn something new. So I took that, and when I went in the door, I had my business card ready. I had my menu in front of me of the meals, the service, and I just said simply, I understand you have executive sessions monthly. Would like to know if you guys would be interested. I'd like to come in. Here's the menu option. and give you a quick 30-minute presentation around some of the things you guys are struggling with at some of your communities. And that pretty much sealed the deal right there, John.
Yeah, even and understand, even if you're going after someone who doesn't have those executive sessions, I want you to take a second and picture this. First of all, you've done a lot of research and you know that this is a primetime account. You know that this is a valid opportunity. You'd be willing to spend money to get in front of these people because you know that it would pay off if you were to win the contract. No, that's number one. You then know who the decision maker is. You know what the process looks like and what needs to happen. Who's the one who signs off and says, yeah, we're going to make this change. So when you know that, you walk in the door, you ask for them by name. In your hand, you have an agenda of what you would cover in a lunch and learn, and you have a couple of menus for different places where they could order. And you're asking them, say, hey, I understand your team has got to eat lunch sometime during the day. I'd love to ask for one day. Lunch is on me for your entire team. I just want to get in front of you. Here's the agenda. This is what I want to say. There are valuable items in here that will apply to you in your business, whether you do business with me or not. There are very few people that are going to say no, right, Chris? I mean, it's pretty tough to turn that down.
Yeah, and especially if you take your menu items, right, focus around them, and then in regards to your presentation, make sure that you give them the timeline, how long you expect to be there, right? So they can present that to their staff. So when they're ready to invite you, they know exactly how long you're going to be there.
Exactly.
Because they got to keep their meetings short and tight, as you know. So that's very, very important.
You're well oiled. You walk in and you say, especially if you have an agenda that says the times with the points that you intend to hit, they'll immediately, first of all, you need to know this customer. You need to know what the problems they have. And when you put this in front of them, this should be their first sign that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
John, they loved it when I came in with that menu, and I had the menu. I said, here's the 3 options. Everybody got to choose, right? Everybody got to pick their lunch. So we were ready and prepared when we came in the door. We had that lunch ready. We even catered it and put it in front of them. That's how dialed in it was.
You're gaining credibility. This doesn't look like it's the first time that you've done this. And Chris, one of the biggest mistakes we can make when putting on a lunch and learn is by skimping or by not going halfway. Consider this like a full marketing campaign that you're gonna put the time into it to make it successful, because you'll get out of it what you really put into it.
Yeah, and you got to remember, you're going to have some serious players at the table. So come with business cards, maybe come with some ideas. I don't want to get into stuff we're going to talk about on the next podcast here, but make sure you have your business cards in check. And remember, the people that are going to come to that meeting are going to be decision makers, right? And that's going to lead to other potential leads for you out in the field.
Well, SilverTrack Nation, we're going to talk about a few more items that will really help you in preparing and landing your first lunch and learn as soon as we hear from our sponsors over at Paperless Proposal. So we'll cut over to our sponsors and then we'll jump right back into our featured conversation.
Developed for mid to large security companies, Paperless Proposal is the #1 enterprise-level cloud-based proposal creation and management solution. Use it to create, send, track, and manage highly customized proactive or RFP proposals. Differentiate your company and win more business with this powerful proposal generation software that can include office files, video, templates, pricing tools, CRM integration, and e-signature approval. Contact us for a free demo at www.paperlessproposal.com/SilverTrack.
So in terms of facility, your #1 goal is going to be to have this actually at their office. It's way more convenient for them, higher likelihood that you're going to get the decision makers there, and it just makes them more comfortable. They're in their own environment. If you can't have it at their facility, have a couple of other backups. Maybe it's a hotel nearby that has a conference room you can rent. Maybe there is a restaurant nearby that has a separate room for business meetings. Have a couple of options lined up, because if they are even somewhat willing, you want to remove every objection possible ahead of time, have an answer for it to where really, if there's the smallest amount of need to what you're walking in there, if they're not fully satisfied in their existing solution, that you have an opportunity to sit down with them and get a shot at this thing.
Yeah, and I recommend, John, for the listeners out there, have it at their office. I'd be very careful There are some times it was very successful, but I was more successful, I guess you could say, having it at their location. I was able to get into their office, see how they worked. I was able to meet other people, spend a little more time. They're more committed because it's a meeting that's already been put into place for them. You got them in their office, right? I don't have anybody missing a meeting or anybody walking away, right? They're all dialed in. Doors are shut and it's quiet.
Yep. And even more important, Chris, I think we go through all of this to get the appointment on the books. Now, first, actually, one thing that we missed, Chris, how many people do you want at this, ideally?
No more than 10. I had anywhere between 5 and 10 people there.
How many companies? Only one company at a time, right?
No, yeah, I did one management company at a time. And then, again, when you have and you're presenting your menu, you can get people's names. You can see exactly what they want to eat when you come there. You'll know exactly who's coming to the meeting. That way, if you want to bring any other special gifts like golf balls and drinks or little cooler cups or whatever, you're not bringing 15 boxes of material, right? Or if you want to bring proposals or some digital marketing pieces to hand out, you know exactly what the body count's going to be.
Yeah, and a cool strategy that you and I shared in preparation, and I don't want to miss, is that one way to make sure you do get the key decision makers there is to, first of all, who you're asking for, and then instead of saying, hey, we'll bring like a buffet style meal where you have like a bunch of sandwiches or you have someone catering, actually take orders for the individuals so you know what Stacy wants, you know what Jack's getting, you know what Bob wants, and make sure that the people that you have their orders, because there's a higher level of commitment there. It's less likely that they're going to bail when, number one, you have their lunch for that day, and number two, you've already made the purchase. They feel like they've already made a commitment when they've submitted that order. So that's a good way to make sure that you're not putting on a lunch and learn for the people who aren't making the decisions here.
Yeah, and don't go cheap. If you're going to do this, take the time. Doesn't mean you want to do them every week, but don't go cheap. Take the time to build the menu, put it together, cater it. And if the company will come in and cater the event and serve your clients, it's terrific because again it keeps them in the chair. It makes you look more professional. All the way down to the dessert, John. They didn't have to leave their chair. They were totally taken care of. The trash was removed. I had everybody's undivided attention. It really worked out good. So don't go cheap on that.
Okay, and here's maybe a way to sample this out, a good strategy to find out if this works for you, because it may not work for everyone. Depends on your market. We've seen it super successful in California, Arizona, West Coast, even heard it be successful in areas in Canada, Florida. But let's just say you want to give this a test. As a BDM, maybe go to your the owner, whoever the controls the budget in your company, and say, look, I'd love to do 3 of these. I want to give a test. Here's the budget I think I need to have to do 3. If I don't close any deals out of the 3, we'll never do it again. If I close 1 deal out of the 3, the size of the clients that I'm going after, it would pay for all 3. It would pay, the profit would offset that. Just go find out what the numbers are, do the homework. I would venture to say you're going to walk away with some deals after putting on 3 lunch and learns.
John, we were very successful every time. I mean, we definitely closed 1 or 2 deals. And then you got to remember, you're going to close a couple deals, but you still have the other people that saw your presentation. They're going to maybe let the other people take on the contract first to see what kind of work you do. There's always going to be a tester in the group, right? But it does lead to further contracts down the line. So if you close 1 or 2 and you're successful, chances are you're going to get the remaining people there in the room later.
Yeah, because the ones that you've done where you are really successful were for regional managers. They represented multiple properties. So it's for one management company that had several properties. That's what you mean by one of them came on early and then they all sort of followed suit after that, right?
Yeah, and you brought up a good point too. When you're doing your menu, a lot of times you'll get the names and they'll introduce the people that are coming because this is for the executives, management team, decision makers. And you want to tell them that up front. This isn't just for anybody in the office to come in and sit in on the presentation. You got to tell them specifically, we're really targeted around more of your manager and your executive teams. If you don't mind, I'd like to keep to that, all right? And that's part of the reason why I set these meetings at their office, because when I put them off location, I had some people bring their friends to lunch, right? They weren't even tied to the property management industry. They say, hey, you want a free lunch? And we're bringing people that, I actually thought were in industry, and when in reality, they weren't. So nice way and reason to go back to the office. Well,
SilverTrak Nation, we can do everything right to get a lunch and learn on the schedule, all the right people can show up. But eventually it's going to be time to pony up and put on a great presentation. In episode number 36, we're going to talk about just that. On the day that it releases, I believe that it will be July 20th, we'll actually release a complete playbook for lunch and learns that win security contracts as well. So this was part 1. We are in the works of finalizing and finishing up that second part. We'll be recording that session. It will go live on July 20th. I'm sorry, let me get my dates right. It will go live on July 20th, episode 36, so just 6 episodes away. You'll be able to download that playbook and hear part 2 of how to really put on a winning lunch and learn once you're in the meeting. You will not want to miss that. Visit the show notes for this episode. We covered a lot. Visit the show notes at silvertracksoftware.com/30 for episode number 30. And until next time, I'm Johnny Page.
I'm Chris Anderson.
This was a Silvertrack Extra, and we'll talk to you soon.
This has been another episode of the Silvertrack Extra. For more insider information, visit silvertracksoftware.com/extra. Listen on the go by subscribing in iTunes. Want to hear your questions answered on the show? Visit silvertracksoftware.com/questions to submit your requests.